go more into the details of the specific CAT-iq features. Here in this slide we see represented the CAT-iq 1.0 features, and also we see here now which features are mandatory and which are optional. So it's clear that all mandatory features have to be implemented and also have to be passed during the certification tests. So in order to ensure backwards compatibility not only in between CAT-iq products but also towards traditional DECT telephony, it's also mandatory for CAT-iq products that they are compliant to the GAP standard, so the generic access profile, which is well known, I guess, for the traditional DECT products. This GLP profile simply does define basic interoperability, really basic interoperability, just to ensure that a handset of manufacturer A can be registered at a base station for manufacturer B, and that incoming and outgoing calls are possible. That's all for this GLP profile. But this is also a basis for CAT-iq products. Now these CAT-iq 1.0 products are enhanced with wideband audio, and for this wideband audio the G722 codec is used. G722 has a throughput of 64 kilobits, and it has also the big advantage that this codec is royalty-free in order to avoid additional costs for a CAT-iq product. Another mandatory feature is this codec selection and switching. So in order to be able on one handset or also on the base station to switch between narrowband and wideband, depending on what type of network connection you have. Either you have a narrowband connection making a traditional POTS call, or you have a broadband connection with voice over IP and you can make use of the wideband audio. So in terms of networking features, also then related to voice over IP and maybe also to SIP, we have the codec negotiation, we have the codec switching, also to support outgoing and incoming calls. Off-hook, on-hook, I think that's pretty clear what is meant here. Dial digits, how the alerting is done of handsets, and also the subscription procedure is defined, link control, authentication, and also clip is mandatory. That means the calling party number has to be shown and represented at a CAT-iq 1.0 compliant handset.
这里展示的是一些必须的功能，对于 CAT-iq 1.0来讲，因为 CAT-iq 1.0其实仍然还是focus 在语音服务上面。那在以往传统的 DECT 上面，我们用到的是7.726这样一个载带编码，那个时候也有一个 GAP 的一个 profile， 就是 GAP 这样一个 profile， 它定义了呢从 handset 到从手机到基站的中间一个最基本的一个兼容性，也就是说 A 公司的产品 A 公司的 handset 也能够注册在 B 公司的 base 上面，然后做一些很基本的语音的一个打入的这样一个功能。所以自然在 CAT-iq 1.0介绍进来的时候呢，它也会去兼容以往的这个 gap。同时呢，增加了对这种宽带边接码，就是 wideband voice 的一个兼容性的一个需求。这里其实就是7.722，因为这里我们有了多样的一个选择，包括7.711、7.726、7.722这样标准的一些 CAT-iq 的编解码呢，所以自然而然的这个编码的一个选择和编码的一个switching 也成为了一个要求。此外，在网络功能上面呢，因为我们讲到 VoIP， 中间会讲到 SIP， 讲到其他的一些 protocol， 那自然也有一些跟它相关的一些功能，比如说像 codec negotiation， 如果打入了一支电话，它用的是7.711的话，那我们自然而然也是配套的用7.711的便捷码来跟它进行网络通讯。这里要讲的就是说，其实在VoIP 中间，我们也运用到了其他更多的一些不同的一个编解码器。那目前在 CAT-iq 上面，其实我们定义的是7.711、7.726和7.722这些最常用的一个编解码。 一些其他的一些 ID 的 solution， 它当然也可以提供一些其他类型编解码，比如说像7.723、7.729这样子一些 narrowband 的一些 transcoding 或者这种互编码。此外呢，一个比较重要的 feature， 比如说像 clip， 就是说所有的这种caller 的一个讯息必须要能够在 handset 上面能够得到显示出来。
Okay, the next step to the basic functionality like narrowband and wideband telephony, much more features are added. So plenty of features are defined by CAT-IQ 2.0, as we have, for instance, missed call notification. So now we are getting defined really a standardized way that there is a common understanding between all CAT-IQ compliant handsets and base stations about all these features, so that really in terms of missed call notification, also generic event notification. Generic stands for, it can be that a handset is informed about missed calls, it can be informed about whatever, an SMS which has been received or an email which has been received, all kind of different events which might occur at the base station. Here we have a mechanism defined to inform the handset about those kinds of events. Another example for this event notification is the voice message waiting notification. So either you can have a network-based answering machine or a voice mailbox, or you have a local one in the base station. Here with this mechanism you're able to inform a handset about received messages. Then another feature which was not really standardized up to now is date and time synchronization between handset and base. So there are two ways possible. You can either set specific time and date information at the handset and you can synchronize it to the base, or the other way around. That means if you, for instance, have some kind of NTP server connectivity in the base station, you can receive the current time and also inform and update the time and date information at the handset side. So here we really ensure that this is interoperable between all the CAT-IQ products. Another feature which is being defined is parallel calls. So it's now really defined in a very detailed manner how parallel calls or simultaneous calls can be done. So 1, 2, 3, 4 calls at one time, and how these can be handled, how call transfer can be done, call, hold and resume can be done, is also defined in CAT-IQ 2.0. Where we have clip already defined and mandatory for CAT-IQ 1.0, also now clip is defined here. That means not only the number of the caller is being represented at a CAT-IQ handset, but also the name if it is submitted as an information by the network. Yeah, supplementary services are defined like making a call transfer, also line identification, where we have in the traditional POTS-based telephony mostly only one analog line, maybe in some US products also two lines are used, but mainly we have only one line, so we don't have the need for differentiation between different outgoing lines. When voice over IP comes into the game, it will be that more than one line are supported, so at least 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, or also you can compare it maybe to SIP accounts which you can configure, and this line identification now defines a way how to make use of a line from a handset, so that a line can be selected when making an outgoing call, and also an indication is given when receiving an incoming call on which line this incoming call appears. So this line identification and line handling is mandatory only for the base station. For the handsets this is optional, so to support multiple lines. Multiple calls is a feature which is being mandatory for handset and base station. Then another feature is the so-called list access services. So list contents can be either entries of answered or unanswered calls in the base station, which are stored there, but can also be phone book entries. So here we have a mechanism